Rain drummed against the curved window of the orbital facility's high-security wing, casting streaks of light across the sterile lab. The entire room pulsed with the dull hum of machines, their only purpose, controlling her. She wasn't born. She was engineered. She sat restrained in a glossy white biopod, her violet skin sleek with a faint sheen of nutrient serum. Filaments of gold biotech wrapped around her arms and chest like ceremonial armor, though everyone knew it was functional, not decorative. It regulated her hormonal cycles, her fertility rate, even her thoughts. Her designation, Zelia 9, as in 3. Hybrid built to preserve a dying royal gene line through enforced reproduction. But tonight, everything changed. A door hissed open behind her. "Subject Zelia 9," a male voice said. Confident, but not cruel. "Time for your systems sync." She turned slowly. He wasn't like the others. No suit, no sterile gloves. No fear in his eyes. Instead, there was curiosity and something softer. Conflict. "You're not part of the science division," she said. "Name's Riven," he answered. "Mechanic. Called me in when your pod's autodrain failed." Zelia narrowed her eyes. "They let a human mechanic near a breeding subject." Riven shrugged. "I guess I'm cheap labor with top clearance." Guy. He reached forward with a slender tool, but his eyes kept flicking toward her, not in lust like the others. "In concern? Are you cold?" he asked, noticing the subtle tremble in her limbs. "I don't get cold," she replied. "I'm designed not to, but I pretend." Blinked. Pretend. To feel more alive. Riven stayed longer than needed. On his second visit, he brought a contraband item, a book. Leather-bound old. "Why?" she asked, eyes wide. "That's illegal. It's Shakespeare," he whispered. "You ever heard of love?" Zelia stared. At the page, where human words spilled into poetry and aching promises. "No," she said, "but I think I want to." She was meant to breed. Her cycle was about to begin. The implants inside her abdomen had begun their pre-ovulation pulsing scene, but felt. Zelia's body had been conditioned to recognize breeding time with a mix of heat and desperation, a loss of will beneath engineered desire. Only this time, she felt something else. She wanted Riven, not because of biology, because of choice. The third visit changed everything. He came late, panic in his voice. "They know," he whispered. "The administrator's watching your biometrics. You've been resisting." "I'm not resisting," she said. "I'm awakening. They'll erase that," he hissed. "They'll restart your cycle, reprogram you, then help me escape." The escape attempt failed. The moment she left the breeding wing, alarms blared. Sedatives slammed through the fluid in her veins. And the last thing she saw before blacking out was Riven being dragged away. When she awoke, she was bound to the fertility chair. Tubes slid into her spine. Systems began activating. The chamber. Lights went red. They were going to use her. But Riven had left something in her palm before she passed out, a key to him, to freedom, to love. Riven's face haunted her dreams, not the calm technician she had first met, but the fury in his eyes as security tore him from her side. The protective anger. The unspoken confession now. She lay strapped to the central cradle of the breeding chamber, cold light humming above her like a silent verdict. Dozens of slender robotic arms hovered, waiting. They didn't call it torture, but it was. Sterile, mechanical, systematic. A soft beat pulsed at her wrist. The DNA activation had begun. The implant in her pelvis had synchronized with her artificially induced ovulation. The chamber's AI, a genderless voice called Control, it droned monotonously. "Subject Zelia 9. Breeding window active. Human species hybridization approved. Genetic viability 93%. Commence insemination protocol." Nelia's heart pounded, not in heat but in fear. She clenched the object hidden in her palm. The override key Riven had slipped into her hand. Before everything collapsed, it was small, metallic, laced with illegal software. A treasonous weapon. She'd waited for the pulse to reach 96%. That was the peak when the system was least protected. That was the only chance. She dug the key into the interface socket beneath the wrist. Clamp sparks flew. The machine arms froze. Midair. Control's voice garbled, then went silent. Zelia breathed once, then twice, then ripped her wrist free from the disengaged clamp, yanking wires and leaving sparks behind. Blood slid down her arm. Pain, real pain. She was finally alive. Security bots dropped from the ceiling with a shriek of spinning blades. She didn't hesitate. She rolled under the first arm, snatched one of the fallen cables, and wrapped it around the bot's eye, yanking with trained precision. It short-circuited instantly. She was faster than they had trained her to be. Because unlike before, she was fighting for something she chose. Someone, a human. Riven, she ran barefoot through the corridors, wrapped in nothing but the silky breathing suit clinging to her body. The sterile metal floors burned her skin. Dripped from her elbow, no guards yet, but alarms screamed across the complex. A voice echoed over the intercoms. Zelia -9 has breached the chamber. Code black. Repeat. Code black. All hybrid programs are to be halted. Lethal force authorized. She smiled grimly. Let them try. The escape plan had been clear. Riven had shown her the schematics of the lower level waste disposal shaft leading directly to the docking hangars. But the shaft was sealed behind a DNA-coded lock, and the only person whose DNA could open it was him. Unless she stopped before the biometric gate and pressed her blood-smeared palm to the panel. It beeped red. Unauthorized user? Report. For reconditioning? No, she hissed. No more obedience. Celia bit into her own wrist, deep until blood welled up again. Then she reached into her mouth and spat out a capsule Riven had hidden inside one of her dental overlays. A DNA disruptor. She crushed it into her blood and smeared it across the panel. This time, the gate hissed open. Welcome, Technician, Riven called her. She sprinted through the shaft. Riven was alive. She found him strapped to a steel gurney chest. Bruised, one eye swollen shut. They had taken his tools, stripped him of his rights, but not his will. He groaned, struggling as she sliced through his restraints with a blade torn from the ventilation duct. They tried to use me, she said softly. I used them instead. He coughed a laugh. Damn right you did. Then she kissed him. There was no logic in it, no strategy, no purpose but hunger. Desperation, truth. Their bodies collided like stars being pulled. Into each other's gravity, they made it to the hangar just as the sirens peaked. Security mechs clattered down the hallway. Boots slammed against metal grates. We've got 30 seconds, Riven growled, yanking open the hatch of a stolen ship. Get in. Zelia hesitated. Wait. She turned toward the hybrid Voltros. Of pods filled with others like her, genetically bred, silent, sleeping, waiting for breeding cycles they didn't consent to. I can't leave them. She said, You'll die, he replied. Then let's both die trying. Together, they flooded the containment system. Dozens of sleeping hybrids awakened. Eyes blinking, mouths opening in soft gasps. Freedom, panic, and in the chaos. Riven and Zelia made it to the pilot's seat. He hit the thrusters, and the sky cracked. Open. The stolen cruiser broke orbit. Behind them, the facility exploded in a chemical chain reaction. Whether it was sabotage or a defense mechanism, no one would ever know. Didn't matter. They were free. For now, later, after the silence, Zelia sat across from him in the ship's infirmary. Her skin still shimmered with the faint gold circuitry. But her eyes were clear. She touched his face where the bruise bloomed beneath his eye. I was made for a purpose, she whispered. I know, Riven said, holding her hand. But now, I want something else. What? You? He leaned closer, forehead against hers. Then she asked something impossible. If we ever created life together, willingly, would you still want me? Riven smiled. I don't need. In order to love you, Zelia, I just do. The stars blurred past in streaks of white fire as the stolen cruiser cut through hyperspace. The ship groaned with every jump. It wasn't meant to travel this fast. Not for this long. But Riven refused to stop. Not until they were out of the syndicate's reach. Inside the dim cockpit, Zelia sat across from him in silence. Her eyes, always alert, tracked the warning lights blinking along the control panel. Her silver-white hair fell over her shoulder, like silk woven from starlight. Despite the exhaustion, despite the bruises on her wrists and ankles, she radiated a calm strength. She hadn't said much since they fled the hybrid facility. Riven figured she was still processing everything. Who wouldn't be? Born in a lab, programmed for forced reproduction, use controlled, then suddenly freedom. Freedom she bled for. He glanced at her, eyes tracing the curve of her jaw. The soft tension in her shoulders. She was a masterpiece. Sand a survivor, you know, he said, breaking the silence. This isn't exactly how I imagined running away with someone. Zelia tilted her head. You imagined running away with me? I imagined something, he admitted, rubbing the back of his neck. Maybe not escape pods and thermonuclear alarms, but yeah. She gave him a half smile. Then this was. Your fault, he laughed genuinely. It was the first time since they left that either of them had. Then came the alarm. A shrill ping shattered the moment. Incoming signal detected. Translite shadow approaching. 2 crafts, marked Syndicate. Reclamation Division. Riven cursed and slammed a fist against the console. They tracked us through the DNA implant, he muttered. Zelia's face went pale. I thought it was deactivated. It was, but even a trace is enough if they're desperate. She stood. We fight. Tsk. He stared at her. No, you just got your life back. I'm not letting you die for mine. I'm not dying, she said, pulling open a weapons locker. Protecting what we escaped for. She tossed him a shock rifle. You wanted to run away with me? She added, then fight with me. The Syndicate's 2 interceptors dropped from warp like black daggers against the stars. Sleek, fast, and armed with enough firepower to reduce their cruiser to stardust. Riven took the helm. Zelia manned the aft turret. The dogfight began. Blue streaks of plasma etched across the black. Riven corkscrewed between asteroids, keeping their signature low. One interceptor zipped past their nose cones. Celia spun her turret and fired. Direct hit. The enemy ship spiraled, smoke trailing behind it as it vanished into a debris cloud. 1 down. She shouted. The second craft came in from above, slicing low and firing an EMP burst. The ship shook, lights flickering. We're hit shield array down, Riven barked. Then we take them down manually, she snapped back. Without hesitation, she leaped into the airlock chamber, grabbed a breather mask, slammed the outer hatch control. Riven's heart stopped. Zelia, what are you doing? But she was already outside. The magnetic soles of her boots held her to the ship's hull as she sprinted along its spine, dragging a coiled cable from the emergency launcher. Above her, the second interceptor circled. She waited. Waited now. She launched the harpoon. It hit embedding deep into the enemy hull. Then she jumped. Riven watched, horrified, as she disappeared into the black between ships. She landed hard on the enemy vessel. Blaster fire greeted from the hatch, but she moved like lightning, dodging, spinning, her blades flashing. These weren't like the sterile guards from the breeding center. These were Syndicate elites. Too bad for them. She was furious. A soldier lunged with a shock pike. She caught it, twisted, and slammed the man into the ship's metal skin, knocking him cold. Another tried to fire, but she threw her blade. It lodged in his helmet. Silence. She slipped inside the cockpit. One pilot remained young. Scared too slow. Zelia pointed the stolen rifle at him. Jump, she said coldly. What? Out the hatch or I shoot you out of it. He jumped. She took the controls back on Riven's cruiser. The view screen flickered to life. Incoming transmission. Interceptor ID. Now friend. Then her voice came through. You said fight with. You, she said calmly. I decided to flank. Riven stared at the screen. She had taken over the entire second craft. Remind me never to piss you off, he muttered. They didn't stay long, with both enemy crafts either destroyed or hijacked. They jumped again. Farther this time beyond syndicate space? To the outer sectors? No. Law, no eyes. Just exile. They landed on a rogue moon called Architewelve, a world of crimson deserts and shattered rock spires. The planet had no cities, no ports only, a single settlement. Built into the bones of an ancient alien structure, it was there that Riven found a safe house. It was barely more than a bunker beneath the sand, but it was quiet, private, safe for now that night. After patching their wounds and hiding their crafts, they sat under the stars on the bunker's rooftop. A twin-moon sky watched over them. Silence reigned. Zalia leaned against him, shoulder to shoulder. She had changed out of the breeding suit, now wearing a simple shirt and utility pants Riven gave her. Still, even in simplicity, she looked like royalty. "Thank you," she said. "Suddenly for what?" "For showing me what I could be, not what I was made to be." Looked at her seriously. "You were never made for them. They stole you, Zalia. You were always meant to choose for yourself." She was quiet for a moment. "Then, I've chosen, then." She turned to face him. "I choose you." And before he could speak, before he could say anything foolish or noble, or unnecessary, she kissed him. Longer this time. No fear. No hesitation. Their bodies found each other in the silence. No breeding program. No machine directive. Only two broken people who had risked everything to be free and found each other in the ruins. And when she whispered his name, it was not as an order. It was a promise. But far away, beyond Arcay's moons, a syndicate commander stared at a screen filled with red alerts. "Subject Zelia 9 is alive." His face twisted into a sneer, and worse, "She's in love." He turned to his science officer. "Initiate protocol, reclaim by any means." The heat of Architewelve had settled into a tense calm. Wind swept across the desert plains outside their bunker, humming low against the curved rocks like a warning growl. But inside the hideout, Riven and Zelia were no longer fugitives. Hiding they were survivors preparing. They had been watching the skies for 3 days. The syndicate hadn't appeared, and that made Riven nervous. Either they're preparing a full-scale response, he said, tapping on the rusted terminal he'd hooked into their stolen cruisers, scanners, or they're already here. Zelia checked her weapon without looking up. "Then let them come." Her tone was quiet but unwavering. She had grown since their escape, her posture straighter, her eyes sharper. This wasn't the hybrid captive he'd met inside that lab. This was a soldier. A woman. His Riven couldn't help but admire her even now, even knowing they might be on the edge of their last stand. "They won't just come for you," he said finally. "They'll come for both of us. For what we know." She holstered her pistol and stepped beside him. "Then we make sure they never leave." The alarm tripped. At midnight, 3 cloaked syndicate transports entered Architewelve's upper atmosphere under stealth mode. But Zelia had rigged the sky scanner to detect energy dips. It's not just movement. She knew the syndicate's tricks. They moved fast, tactical, no open engagement. They wanted her taken alive. Heat signatures outside the perimeter, Riven hissed, strapping on his chest plate. 2 teams. Heavy suppression units. Zelia tied back her hair and drew the dual blades she kept beneath her coat. "They'll try to isolate us." "They don't know we've been isolated," he said with a smirk. She leaned in and kissed him once, fiercely. "Don't die. Only if you don't." They split. Riven took the front. They laid traps, thermal mines and pulse spikes, buried. Under the sand, like land-bound fangs, XEL took the back entrance, waiting in the rocks. The syndicate underestimated them. The first unit dropped right into Riven's Field 6 black-armored enforcers. He let the first to pass, then detonated a shock trap. A blue blast lit the desert. Throwing 3 soldiers backward, the rest scrambled. He opened fire. His rifle barked into the night one. 2, 3 each shot a target, each target a memory of what they'd done to her. They'd called her property. They branded her with tracking tags and hormone overrides. She'd been shackled to a cradle and told to smile while her DNA was harvested. He'd burn it all down for her at the rear. Zelia moved like shadow. The second unit tried to flank them, silent, elite, armed with particle blades. But she saw them through heat sight. The moment they approached the bunker's back door, she struck. She was faster than any of them remembered. Stronger, one by one, she dropped them. Blade through armor. Spin strike. Vault. When the last soldier dropped, she grabbed his cum device and snarled into it. You took my body. She stepped on the helmet. You'll never take my soul. They regrouped inside the bunker. Blood spattered across Riven's arm. Zelia's cheek was cut, but she didn't seem to notice. We've got 2 more ships inbound, he said. We can't hold this place. And we don't, she said, already typing something into the stolen cruiser's console. Wait, what? Are you doing? Uploading everything we stole? DNA programs? The breeding maps? Locations of every hybrid facility. To who? Everyone, she said grimly. Every free system, every rebel faction, every pirate king. They all hate the Syndicate for different reasons. I'm giving them one more. He stared at her. That'll make you a universal target. I already am. Riven stepped forward, took her hands. Then I'll be your shield. The bunker collapsed behind them as they took off. They weren't running. They were drawing fire. The ship shot toward the upper stratosphere, systems burning hot. Engines screaming. The Syndicate ships followed, locking weapons. Firing range in 10 seconds, Riven shouted. We're not fast enough. Zelia didn't answer. She stood. Walk to the emergency release hatch in the cargo bay. What are you doing? He asked, heart pounding. There's one way to stop them, she said. She revealed the last virus capsule loaded into a pulse dart. If I inject this into their core AI, it'll collapse every Syndicate ship code for 100 miles. I have to do it from inside. Riven paled. That's suicide. She looked at him, eyes fierce. You pulled me from a cage. Let me do the same for the others. Then softly, she added, I love you. No, he whispered. Not like this. There's another way. And then something inside him shifted. The old soldier returned. He stepped past her, pulled open the weapons bay. No, he said, we do this. Together, they launched the pod toward the lead Syndicate vessel, hidden in a debris storm. A tight window. One chance. They shot through the hangar, dropped into the central shaft. Riven covered her as she injected the virus dart into the AI. Matrix. Alarm shrieked. Syndicate guards closed in, but it was too late. The virus pulsed through. The ship like lightning-taut control systems collapsed. Engines died mid-dash burn, one by one. The Syndicate ships began to fall. They barely made it back to their cruiser before the explosion swallowed the sky. When they came to, our Kitewelve was far behind. Them, the ship was damaged. Their future uncertain, but they were together and free. 3 weeks later, on a hidden moon orbiting a binary star, Riven stepped out of the repair bay and found Zelia standing in the sunlight. She was barefoot, arms crossed, staring out over a cliff of pink crystal. Hey, he said gently. She turned, smiled, then stepped forward and whispered, I'm pregnant. He blinked. What? I didn't mean to be, she said, biting her lip. I wasn't supposed to be. They made me think I couldn't, not naturally. But he didn't let her finish. He wrapped his arms around her and held her like the universe might steal her again. She laughed, cried, and said, It's different this time. No machine, no lab. Yeah, he said softly. This time, it's love. The E&D, if you'd like an epilogue or bonus chapter with their child, or how they help other hybrids rise up, just say the word.